Kinks in the program, glitches in the code, screws loose in the hardware. She could only accept that as what her people's leaders have achieved in their century in the stars. Her kind, the Valerium, were masters of mathematics, ill-suited for much beyond the warm comfort of their paradise homeworld. So when they established FTL Communications, they eagerly shared their skills and brilliant minds to help the galactic community in exchange for upliftment. For many years, that was the beauty of their relationship with the myriads of species that made up what she once considered friends. Her people were the best tutors, analysts, and mathematicians, while their new employers helped them see the stars and facilitate their journeys to new planets and jobs. Now she could hardly call them that. Now they were cowards, traitors, targets of her spite and hate as her world slowly drew to darkness. The galactic community wasn't exactly an alliance, but she hoped some would answer the call to aid her people, yet none answered, and her role at the FTL comms array station seemed more useless by the second, as the eldritch horrors of the Valstrup hive encroached closer and closer. Of course, none came. Her people aren't fighters, aren't warriors or strategists. Their value is their minds and the wealth they had gathered, and only one would be lost when the Valstrup hive reduced her world to a lifeless rock. With a small, spiteful fury, she sat up and took a deep breath as she tried yet again, her voice soft and harmonic as she spoke into the microphone, her people's programs translating the message to all forms of galactic dialects. "This is Miralea Zalmi of the Valerium on Volar. My planet is being beset by an existential threat. We are preparing to defend ourselves, but we need help. Please, if anyone is listening, please send any help you can, be it warriors or evacuation." Her hand releases the transmission button, sending her message with a collection of images and files to aid in explaining the threat. Her superior's hand rested on her shoulder, his tone warm even as they hopelessly manned the station. "Miralea, have faith. The goddess will guide us," he says, setting down a cup of stimulant for her. She snorted through her nose, her scales flexing as she breathed out her frustrations. "I didn't peg you for a traditionalist, Director Woalia," she says, sipping the stimulant. Director Woalia hums, "Nature of the job? Government work doesn't allow theology in office, but given the situation, I hardly care." He rolls a chair over, slipping his tail in before leaning back. "Besides, what will they do? Fire me?" he says with a chuckle, trying to lighten the mood. She nods with a bit of chuckle, too. "Well, I suppose that is true," she says softly, glancing to the timepiece on the wall and then out the window, where her city was being rapidly transformed into a fortress by a people completely out of their element. "Have you any new information about how long until planetfall?" Director Woalia shakes his head softly. "The equation hasn't changed. Less than 50 sorps until it starts." She nodded, turned back to the instruments, and got ready to try again. "Then we don't have a Zor to waste." Her hand shook, the microphone taunting her as her people fought and died for survival outside. It had only been 20 sorpies since the Volstrop landed on her world, and their horrific forms proved near unkillable to her people's assortments of mismatched weapons bought in a hurry. Of the 7 cities that once marked the surface of her world, 3 have fallen. Over a few hundred billion of her people died. And here she still was, screaming into the cold, unfeeling void of space for help. Just as she was about to give up, to give in and abandon her station, a voice spoke back, but her terminal's translator ran wild, attempting to translate the cadenced collection of sounds. Her breath caught. She wasn't sure it was real and quickly spoke back. "This is Miralea Zom of the Valerium on Volar, please. If you can hear these and can help, please respond." She felt a thrill run down her spine, her scales on end. The system was set to mute out the sound of the Volstrop, which meant whatever was contacting her was aid, hopefully. The same voice spoke back again, but the terminal couldn't translate it. However, the tone might have been encouraging, possibly. The response was short and pointed, a few short series of guttural but soft sounds. "Director? Do we still have cryptolinguist around?" She yelled a bit, her mind racing as she worked to isolate the sounds for analysis. Director Woalia spun from where he was watching the world outside. His eye narrowed for a second until he realized something was happening. "Has someone responded?" She barely registered his question as the same series of sounds played on the open channel. like a transmission. Yes, I believe so. But the translation software can't make sense of it, likely an unknown species, she says with hope and excitement in her voice. I am transmitting the data pack for elemental composition, but we need analysts to decipher their language, she adds, her hand operating the controls with professional mastery. Director Wawalia nods and taps his personal communicator. Speaking quickly, he calls up anyone with the necessary skills and coordinates with the government about this discovery. The once abandoned office was buzzing with activity as her world rapidly shifted. The other cities had been evacuated to hers, and everyone not needed for breaking the linguistic barrier was shuffled to the defense of the FTL Communications Array Station. Her hands raised as she transmitted words with images to establish a baseline of patterns with these mystery saviors. Sky, cloud, space, star, she repeated with a bit of frustration. Again, the response is the same short set of sounds, like the transmission was getting to them, but they were being uncooperative. They did send a data pack back with the solved elemental composition, which meant whoever she was trying to contact was intelligent. But she couldn't understand why they were not attempting to break the language barrier. Water, earth, fire, air, she says, hoping that the response would be different. And it was. This time it was 3 sounds that sounded firm and somehow reassuring, though she wasn't sure why. She barely had time to register the difference when the alarms blared to life with inbound FTL arrivals. Her eyes widened as everyone watched the display, showing hundreds of crude and hardly functional pre-FTL ships get spit into high orbit over their planet. The primitive designs didn't match anything their computers could recognize. The hull of these ships shifted, some sort of weapons turrets moving to aim, and began attacking the Volstop organisms in orbit. As small shuttles, pods, and crafts dropped from the hulls and rapidly descended on her city. Her terminal flickered as it received a download file. With a bit of hesitation, she authorized it, and spoke again. This is Miralea Zom of the Valerium on Volar. If you can hear this, please respond, she said nervously, uncertainty in her tone. This time, the translator worked thanks to the file as it translated the alien words for her at a small delay. Miralea Zomi of the Valerium, this is Brigadier General Samantha Carter of Earth's First Star Fleet of Humanity. We apologize for the delay. My forces will take it from here. Please have your people hunker down and stay indoors. Her breath hitched. Warriors? Humanity? We got you, Valeriums. Humanity has arrived. Her mind couldn't believe it. With a creaking voice, she responded, Thank you. Oh, goddess, thank you. The news spread quickly as her people abandoned their posts to hide as soon as these humans landed and arrived at the barricades. Each was a warrior from their uniformed weapons and armor, but they were also so different. The warrior species of the galaxy often had natural weapons or defenses, yet these ones seemed to lack such things, relying on tool weapons like her kind needed. However, all moved with practiced efficiency. As she watched the news, her station had been taken over by some officials to coordinate with the Brigadier General. Her mind raced with the sight of these humans and their tools of war. They were fighting and doing so in a manner completely alien to all galactic standards, utilizing range weapons, held in their hands or mounted on armored vehicles. Their technology level was clearly far lower than the galactic standard, and yet it was so deadly and accurate. Some sort of projectile throwers, but wasn't sending needles or spikes. They fought with a grim resolve as their fleet waged a bloody orbital war with the uncaring hive will of the Volstrop. Then the battle shifted. The Volstrop was losing ground, and pockets of Valeriums were found and rescued. Humanity was pushing the hive mind of horrors back both on the ground and in space. Their warriors taken back her planet, one burning or vivisected monstrosity at a time. She could hardly believe it. She couldn't understand why these humans, so new to the galactic stage, would fight so hard for her people. She didn't care. She wanted friends amongst the stars, and she would happily settle for whatever they looked like under their armor, even if they were more horrific than the Volstrop. If you love engaging stories like this, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to stay updated with all the latest episodes from FY Stories.